podcast about something where each week we dive deep into whatever it is we find interesting. I'm your host, Calvin, and joining me from a wretched hive of scum and villainy, it's your co-host, Nick Richardson.
A wretched hive of scum and villainy? How dare you,
I mean,
sir?
That's the cantina on Tatooine, man. That's where you are.
How dare you?
Our boy, Anakin Skywalker's home planet, Tatooine. That's who we're talking about today. Little Annie.
Fucking, I hate that shit, dude.
And we're only talking about him when he's 9 years old. We're not talking about the rest of it. Only 9-year-old Anakin. That's all we've got here.
Annie!
Strap in for an hour on the best character Jake Lloyd's ever played.
I think that dude like quit acting after that shit. He still gets bullied for it. I should laugh.
Him and like Ahmad Best, the guy who played Jar Jar, got very severely bullied. Listen, if you're listening to this, don't fucking bully actors. They're just playing a part. They've got nothing to do with it. They're reading a script. Come on. Don't bully anyone in a movie. Like, they weren't talking about it.
I get why Jake Lloyd would care, but the dude that played Jar Jar Binks, it's like, dude, you're fucking rich. You're going to get royalties the rest of your life.
Jar Jar Binks was seminal in creating in perfecting motion capture technology.
They didn't even show his face.
We wouldn't have any video games if not for Jar Jar Binks. Or the level of clarity in characters in video games if not for Jar Jar Binks. And any other motion capture. Andy Serkis wouldn't exist without Jar Jar Binks. Like, they wouldn't have been able to make Lord of the Rings with Gollum if not for Jar Jar Binks.
Coming next month, Patreon exclusive, the value of Jar Jar Binks.
I mean, no, I'll put that right on Front Street. He's got value, man.
Son?
All right, but we're not talking about Jar Jar. We're talking about Anakin. Fuck off if you bully Jake Lloyd online. He's fine. He was a kid. He doesn't know any better. We're talking about Anakin, the whole life, the rise, the fall, the re-rise of Anakin Skywalker. That's what we're here for.
And the refall. Don't forget that.
Well, no, he only fell once.
Fell down to the floor.
No, well, yeah, all right. That wasn't... No, I'm not laughing at that. I refuse. So who is Anakin Skywalker? According to Wikipedia, this was just great. I had to write it down because it's so stupid. He's a Force-sensitive human male. That's like the first line on his Wikipedia entry.
Nothing special.
Force-sensitive human male. That's it. That's him. We're done. Thank you for listening. Stay classy. He was born to Shmi Skywalker on Tatooine in 41 BBY, before the Battle of Yavin. Many believed he could have been born from the Force itself, and we'll get into what that means a little bit later. But Shmi claims he had no father. Just Virgin Marying up in this beast.
He's fucking lying.
He's a slave. He's owned by Watto, who works Watto owns the junkyard, and Annie works in the junkyard. I just called him Annie. I'm not going to do that anymore. Sorry about that.
Yeah, please don't do that, dude.
He's
Please.
a proficient pod racer, not a podcaster. I almost wrote podcaster in my notes. That would have been kind of funny.
That's his other hobby.
Yeah. When he's building C-3PO, they just have a podcast as he's building him. That's what's going on.
Join me.
Great mechanic, great pilot. He's saved from slavery by Qui-Gon Jinn and goes to train as a Jedi. He's the Padawan to Obi-Wan Kenobi. He has his own Padawan later, Ahsoka Tano, which we'll talk more about her. He is then later converted to a Sith as Darth Vader, where he serves as apprentice to Darth Sidious. That is the quickest roundup I can give on Anakin Skywalker, I think. Did you have anything to add to that, or did I cover everything?
Then he dies.
He does die. Well, he almost dies. And then he doesn't die, and then he does die later.
He almost dies like 50 times.
That's true.
Through the course of his life.
He almost dies quite a few times. I mean, that's the life of the Sith, though, man. Somebody's always gunning for you.
And the Jedi. I mean, he was doing dumb, crazy shit as a Jedi, too.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. That's a fair point. We were talking about, I really want to listen to this Anakin Skywalker C-3PO podcast now.
Yeah, it sounds
like, what's going on in Tatooine? We need to know. What's the hatch? No. What's Greedo up to?
Yeah, and you can hear the pod racing in the background and all the, yeah, that sounds good. I could do that.
Yeah. All right, people smarter and better at voices than us. Get on it, create a podcast that's 9-year-old Anakin Skywalker while building C-3PO. That's your podcast. What do they talk about? What are we doing?
Boom.
Somebody else get on. I can't do the voices.
Someone's getting rich.
That's fine. Just break me off a little bit. Hit us on Patreon.
We're out there. Kit Kat bar.
So I want to start with talking about how he actually became a Jedi. We said he was found on Tatooine by Qui-Gon Jinn, who was a Jedi in his own right at the time, when Qui-Gon crash landed on Tatooine while escorting Queen Amidala somewhere. I don't remember where.
I don't remember either, but
it was like 8 months ago when I watched episode 1. Yeah, their hyperdrive broke. They needed the spare parts. They go to Watto's shop, and Qui-Gon immediately recognizes the great Force potential in Anakin and did everything in his power to rescue him from slavery with Watto.
I will enact that scene now. Qui-Gon walks into the place, looks at the young boy, and goes, "Whoa." And
just like Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, whoa. And that's about it.
Yeah, and Qui-Gon kind of cheats a little to get his way here too. He Jedi mind tricks the chance cube. He makes sure Sebulba goes down in the pod race. There's a lot going on. Qui-Gon's not the most up and up Jedi.
He's not very ethical, for sure.
No, he was very he was closer to Gray than a lot of would believe. Dooku was trying to convince him to come with him and leave the Jedi Order, and he almost did.
Till he called him Count Dookie, and then he rescinded
Well, and
that
he
offer.
also died, so that didn't help.
He killed him. I mean, he just jumped. He couldn't stand to be called Count Dookie any longer.
Well, that's true. So Qui-Gon brings Anakin back to Coruscant with him. He wants Anakin to train under himself. He wants to be his master. He thinks his current apprentice, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I wonder if he meant old Ben Kenobi. Huh. You think they're the same person? Obi-Wan, old Ben? I bet they are.
Nah.
So his current apprentice, Obi-Wan, he's ready for the trials to become a master. He needs a new apprentice. And he thinks he's ready to train Anakin. The Jedi Council, however, believe that Anakin is too old to begin his training. If he were born within the Republic, Tatooine's an Outer Rim planet, not really within the scope of the Republic. So if he were born in the Republic, they would have identified him early and taken him from his parents right away instead of when he's fucking 10. I don't know which is better, but they both don't seem good.
I imagine that does not help, because that's kind of like a theme in these space knights and special warriors throughout video games and pop culture. Is like they're taken away as children or adopted as children and trained.
I mean, you could even look at Disney movies and like literally all the parents die. Like apparently you can't have parents to become great.
Damn it.
Who knew? Guess my daughters aren't going to be great because I hope I don't want to die. So
yeah, I'm not ready to go yet.
So after Qui-Gon's dreadful death at the hands of Darth Maul, Obi-Wan persuades the Jedi Council that it's Qui-Gon's last wish that they allow Obi-Wan to train Anakin, and so they allow it. Anakin, yeah, they didn't want to. They still weren't fans of it. He's got to guess some ships through a shield, some holograms. A very simple training to see if you're ready to be a Jedi. So Anakin trains under Obi-Wan for like 20 years or something. Maybe not. It was like 15 years, I think.
That was 10 years.
Maybe 10. I don't know. And he's trained under Obi-Wan. He becomes a general during the Clone Wars. He even during the Clone Wars trains his own Padawan, Ahsoka Tano, as I mentioned. And he was eventually granted a seat on the Jedi Council at the behest of Senator Palpatine, but he was never actually granted the rank of Jedi Master. And this is just a bad call here. Like, he's ready. He's the most powerful anyone's ever seen. Let him go through the trials. If he passes, he's in. If he can't control himself, just like everyone else, then he's not a master.
Or just kill him.
Let him try.
Yeah,
or just kill him.
What do you got to lose? You have nothing to lose.
We're going to talk a little later about everything that the Jedi Council did wrong. Basically, everything they did was the worst possible thing they could do to get Anakin to turn against the Jedi. But that comes later. We're not ready for that yet.
Not quite.
They made a lot of bad decisions when it comes to Anakin, though. This is definitely one of them, of saying, oh, yeah, Palpy, he says he can sit on the council, but we're not going to let you be a master, which is just fucking stupid.
Yeah, Nobby. Sorry. Not sorry, bitch.
We've mentioned some of these people already, but let's talk about who the important people surrounding Anakin were and how they affected his becoming a Jedi and then later turning to the dark side, how each of these people surrounding Anakin kind of had a hand to play in that. So we'll start with his mother, Shmi Skywalker. Uh, she's his mother. She raised Anakin. No father, conceived by the Force. No father conceived by the Force. We'll come back to that still. But then after he leaves and he's trained to become a Jedi, he learns through a premonition that Shmi has been captured by the Tusken Raiders on Tatooine, and he flees to Tatooine to try and save his mother. And this is the first time we see a real burst of anger and rage from Anakin.
Oh, he's fucking pissed. And
He's
this is after
very
Obi-Wan told him, do not go.
Yeah, you're only going to find pain, and pain leads to fear leads to hate leads to suffering, blah, blah, blah. All that, whatever the fuck Yoda says.
Well, I mean, this is exactly what they were worried about. Because, taking young, like, babies, infants, and stuff like that away from their parents, or taking orphans and training them, they don't have those connections they got with...
Right. It was the connection that they were afraid of. It's not. They don't want their Padawans having connections, because then if you're too connected, you're going to have fear. Yeah, right. You're going to feel too much, and that's what they're trying to cut off. Which I will argue that that's not the way to handle it. You let them feel. You let them observe and feel those feelings and process those feelings. That's part of the problem with Anakin, and I will go way deeper into this later. He was never allowed to process any of these feelings that he had, and that is what eventually helped him turn to the dark side, because someone gave him that opportunity. And suppressing emotions is never going to be good for growth and development.
No, especially when he just needed a fucking hug.
Yeah, really just needed
like
a
hug and a beer.
He goes to Tatooine and kind of gets a hug from his mom as she dies in his arms after the Tusken Raiders brutally raped and beat her.
Yeah, she's fucked up, man. That would be very hard to see.
She's in rough condition when he gets there, and then she dies in his arms as he's trying to save her, but he's too late. And this causes him to lash out and kill the entire village. Not just the men, the women, the children, all of them.
Psycho. It's like Vietnam War flashbacks.
Yeah, he finally gave in to his rage, lets his rage take control of him, and just goes nuts on these guys. It's a rough look for him.
He's got some sweet moves, though. Let me just say that.
Well, yeah, he is a talented lightsaberer. That's not how you say that.
Lightsaberist.
Lightsaberist. That's it. Another important person was the guy who saved him, Qui-Gon Jinn. He saves him from slavery. He pursues his Anakin's training as his own Padawan. He probably dicked down Shmi while they were on Tatooine. I can only imagine. He was definitely getting some side piece action there.
Yeah. It's like you're about to have a little more than a Force baby. Just saying.
I got some midichlorians I can share with you.
About to drop some midichlorians on your ass.
And then, he's the first one that actually teaches Anakin anything about the Force. He tells him of the prophecy that he thinks Anakin is there to fulfill. And I probably should have looked this up, but there is an actual prophecy out there. You can look it up. It's something that there will be a child conceived of the Force that will eventually bring balance to the Force. Qui-Gon believes this is Anakin and straight up tells Anakin that this is him.
Yeah, what kind of shit is that? Like,
that's rough for a 9-year-old.
Fuck yeah, dude, that's bogus. Especially
that's
a
lot to
9-year-old
live
slave
up to.
kid who's basically been looked at as nothing, and then this space wizard comes around and is like, "Hey, bro, you're basically Jesus." Like,
yep, hello. And we need you. You can't do from this moment on. You can't do anything wrong. Like you have to be the one to save us.
And no chicks, even though I brought this hot chick.
No chicks, ever.
Yeah,
because
no beer.
Yoda
no
may be getting some dick down in there. We don't know where Baby Yoda came from yet. Could be Yoda's. We don't know. So, that's just hypocritical to be telling Anakin that he can't have a little Padme piece on the side.
You already know when he's banging Anakin's mom. He's like, "Listen, dude, I know."
Well, Qui-Gon was definitely banging Anakin's mom.
Oh, fuck yeah. He's like, "Sorry,
but Qui-Gon doesn't follow all the rules. Like Qui-Gon is he lives by his own rules. Yeah.
He's the bad boy of the Jedi Order. That Qui-Gon.
So Qui-Gon's death leads to another important figure in Anakin's life, and that's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Uh, Anakin is the Padawan to Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is his Jedi master, training him in the ways of the Force and just how to be a person, how to grow up and be a person. Anakin has no father, so he's constantly looking for a father figure, first in Qui-Gon, then in Obi-Wan, then in Palpatine later. Um, Obi-Wan doesn't fulfill the father role, but he does become like a brother to Anakin through the kind of master apprentice relationship and through the, let's just say, 10 to 15 years that they're training together.
Yeah, they're tight. Needless to
He
say.
he helps at every possible turn. He helps teach Anakin how to control and use the immense levels of power that no one else, only I think Yoda is the only one that they think is more powerful than Anakin at this point. And they Obi-Wan helps him focus that, even though he has no idea how powerful Anakin actually is. He helps him focus that energy into being good, even though Anakin's shown tendencies to not be. He helps him fight those tendencies, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, Obi-Wan's definitely got a little fear of Anakin, I think. But
Yes.
he's doing his best to kind of keep the cage closed.
Mm-hmm.
Work
And
with, it's like Dexter, you know, from
yeah,
Dexter.
from Dexter. I never watched Dexter. I tried one time, never got into it.
First season was cool.
And
Shout out Dexter fans.
this all culminates in the final showdown on Mustafar between Master and Apprentice. And after Anakin betrays the Jedi and kills all the leaders of the Separatist movement, we get this battle on Mustafar where Obi-Wan eventually wins, but he has to. He's got to. It takes a lot for him to win. This
Takes everything he's got.
well, all of his actual power and fighting prowess, but also just emotionally to where he saw what Anakin did. He also, to a point, had to turn on Anakin. He says, "You were like a brother to me.
Oh, he loves him.
I
He's like one
failed
of
you.
the only
Yeah,
people in his life he actually
you truly
loves.
are lost. I'm the one that's failed you." And he fucking mows him down, cuts off all his limbs, and just leaves him there melting. But
Yeah, he pieces him out. Like, that's brutal as fuck. I mean, he could have done a whole lot less to fuck him up so bad.
I don't think he really had a choice. Anakin goes for the massive super force jump, and he will have the high ground if Obi-Wan doesn't do something. And Obi-Wan's learned from his battle with Darth Maul that you've got to take what you can get, and he just took a swing and got everything in one fell swoop. Which, shout out Obi-Wan, saved the world eventually.
Speaking of Obi-Wan, I saw something really dope today, and it was just a picture of Luke at the top of the staircase and Vader at the bottom when he says, Obi-Wan taught you well. I thought that was really, really dope, considering,
Obi-Wan also taught him.
no, Obi-Wan taught Vader, and he had the high ground, and
Oh,
he's
I
the
got
one
you.
who took out Vader
I see
or
what you're
took
saying.
out Anakin. He still
Yeah.
remembers that lesson.
Oh
I
yeah.
would, considering he
Yeah.
lost his fucking legs and
Lost his legs, lost his arm, lost his wife, lost his children. Yeah, he lost a lot in that one scene. So on binge mode, I'm gonna keep referencing this probably. They talked about that to kind of build on this relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin, that maybe kind of have this not secret love affair between Obi-Wan and Padme, but make a more overt relationship between Obi-Wan and Padme, not even a sexual or loving relationship, just where they're friends. And it would make Anakin's jealousy in the moment more realistic, because we see Padme come off Obi-Wan's ship and he gets really angry. He says, "Oh, you were with him this whole time," or Obi-Wan comes off Padme's ship, sorry. And he says, "He was making you do this," or "You were with him this whole time." And they made a good point on binge mode that this could have built this kind of, if Anakin doesn't really know, Obi-Wan spends times at Padme's pad. They have this
oh,
relationship where it's almost, in my mind, it would be this thing where Padme is actually confiding in. They don't have a secret love themselves, but Padme's confiding in Obi-Wan, meeting in secret with him throughout the last two movies, to discuss her and Anakin's relationship and what's going on with them, because she has to be able to get it out too, because she can't tell anyone as a member of the Senate and Anakin being on the Jedi Order, but she feels she can trust Obi-Wan. And through these two movies, Anakin sees them together having these kind of secret meetings where she's actually just confiding, but really Obi-Wan is. But in Anakin's mind, they have their own relationship going on, and
well,
like
yeah,
that
and
would
it's
just
a
add this extra layer of jealousy to Anakin, and have him want to lash out at Obi-Wan. Like, it would fill him with more hatred specifically towards Obi-Wan, because at this point he has no reason to hate Obi-Wan.
Well, and especially since she's pregnant.
Right.
She's about to have babies, so it's like, whoa, you motherfucker, are those your babies? So
Exactly.
that would give him a lot more skin in the game.
Exactly. And it would give a reason, more of a reason than just Obi-Wan showed up for this battle on Mustafar.
Like, hey bro, I don't like your face. Why are you here?
And then Obi-Wan is sadly, tragically killed by Darth Vader in Zero BBY in the events of A New Hope. But he became more powerful than you could ever imagine, Darth. I like how he calls him Darth, like that's his name.
Darth.
So, as we talked about, with Obi-Wan, there's also Padme Amidala as an important figure in Anakin's life. An angel, he thinks, when he first meets her. Yeah, he's a little slave kid from a back-ass water town. He doesn't know any better.
He's in the bathroom like, yeah, dude, say that. That sounds cool.
I can forgive his rough dialogue because he doesn't know any better, man. He's in the first one, he's like an 8-year-old. He's learning all this new stuff about himself. You can't help it. In the second one, he's a Jedi. He has no idea how to talk to girls. He's been on this one planet for his whole life, and now he's training to become a Jedi. Jedi don't know how to fuck talk to girls. You gotta excuse the dialogue from Anakin's side, but Padme, she should know better than some of the dialogue she gets.
I mean, Obi-Wan's smooth as hell talking to little ladies. But it was funny when...
But Obi-Wan learned all his tricks from Qui-Gon. You gotta remember that.
That's true.
Anakin didn't get to learn anything from Qui-Gon.
They might have shared a person or two. I don't know. You learn a few things.
So he meets Padme along with Qui-Gon on Tatooine, and he immediately becomes infatuated with her, culminating in, Attack of the Clones when he's set to guard her and can't stop focusing on her, like, super creepy. But again, can't blame him. He doesn't know any better.
Fuck, dude. Yeah. He's like the galaxy's far, far away's version of an incel. It's just like,
100%. But oh my god. In episode 1, like, I give a lot of credit to Jake Lloyd. I think he actually does a good job of portraying what this 9-year-old kid who lives in the middle of nowhere is found by space wizards and the most beautiful girl he's ever seen. And now he all of a sudden has to interact with these people and try to be mature. He has to leave his mother, who's the only family he's ever known, the only person he trusts and knows. He has to leave her, and he has to be accepted into this whole huge world that he knows nothing about. And he struggles with it, but at the same time, he rises to the occasion when he needs to. And so, like, you just have to think from a 9-year-old's perspective, what are the things you're going to say in this situation, right?
Hey, baby. How you do?
Are you an angel? Like, I get it. But Attack of the Clones, yeah, he's definitely incelish there.
Yeah.
Can't forgive him.
He gets a little butthurt about everything.
And you can tell throughout Attack of the Clones that Padme and Anakin share feelings for each other, but they have to hide them. One, because she's on the Senate, and he's a member of the Jedi Council, and the Jedi Council does not allow attachment. And again, we already touched on this a little bit. That's a bad call by the Jedi Council. Just cutting yourself off from all emotion, that's never going to lead to great development in children. Like, you can't teach an 8-year-old to just be like, nah, don't feel anything for anyone ever. They're going to need some therapy.
Sword. Yeah.
And here's a fucking laser sword.
Yeah, here, take this.
And you can move things with your mind and convince people to do things that maybe they didn't want to do.
But you better fucking not. Don't do it.
Not to the opposite sex, though. Don't do that.
And no chicks. No fucking chicks either, bro. No drinking.
And then at the end of Attack of the Clones, she secretly marries Anakin and later becomes the mother of Anakin's children, Luke and Leia.
Dude, she's fucking cradle robbing for sure.
So I think in episode 1, she's supposed to be like 13 and he's supposed to be 9. So, and then in episode 2, he's supposed to be 18, I want to say. So that would make her 22. That's not as bad at that point.
Well, when you put it like, I thought she was like 18 in the first movie.
She looks 18 because it's fucking Natalie Portman, and I think she was 18 or 20 years old, but she's supposed to be like 12, 13 years old.
She still looks the same, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. She did not hit a growth spurt after Phantom Menace.
No.
But it's hard on them because they have to continue to live their lives in secrecy even after they're married. and Anakin starts having these visions about her, and preventing her death was the main catalyst for Anakin seeking wisdom in the dark side. He, the same way, had visions of his mom. He has visions of her. He didn't want what happened to his mother to happen to Padme. Uh, but at the same time as all this going on, she's actually the one that helps him kind of realize why democracy and the Republic is important, because Anakin definitely shows some dictatorish leanings early on. He's
Yeah,
just like,
it's
well,
if
I'll
they
just
don't listen,
become king of everything and tell them to do what I want.
I'll become the most powerful thing in the galaxy and
Yeah.
fucking pwn noobs, punk bitches.
And so, throughout the Clone Wars, Anakin has his own Padawan, Ahsoka Tano, which great fucking character. I know you haven't seen a lot of the Clone Wars
Yeah, I'm not
series,
really familiar with it.
but she's awesome. She's also in the Rebel series, but she's broken away from Anakin at that point. She's his Padawan during the Clone Wars. She actually teaches Anakin as much as he teaches him. She kind of taught, Anakin's teaching her ways of the Force and how to be a Jedi, but at the same time, she's helping him learn compassion, how to control his emotions, because she was always more contained than he was. And she, as one of the people Anakin trusted, she kind of saw those bad sides of him when they would flare up during the Clone Wars. And she could kind of help him through to see, remember the things you, in times of calm, he's a great teacher, but when, one little thing goes wrong and he lets his emotions get the better of them, he forgets these things. So she's always there kind of reminding him in this conscience in his ear, telling him, remember what you've taught me, this is the way we're supposed to do things. And she's really great for that. But eventually Ahsoka is wrongly blamed for a terrorist attack on the Jedi chambers, and she actually leaves the Jedi Order at this point. And this kind of breaks Anakin, and she's one of the only people he can trust, and it just leads further to his, after she loses him. It's really just Obi-Wan that he can trust, and Padme, but she's not a Jedi, so she doesn't understand all the stuff he talks about. But it leads him further into isolation and bitterness towards the Jedi Council because of the way they treated her. Because, Anakin and Ahsoka were both trying to convince the Jedi Council that she wasn't responsible for this terrorist attack. And, watching the Clone Wars series, you see that she's not responsible, but the Jedi Council doesn't necessarily see this. So you get this kind of push and pull between them as they don't trust her and don't believe her. And that forces her to leave because they didn't trust in her when they should have. And to me, like, at some point, you're telling this kid he's the chosen one, you got to listen to him at some point, right? Like, this isn't the guy that you want to
so.
keep disillusioning to your ways. You don't want him to turn on you. He's more powerful than anybody else around.
Yeah, but wouldn't you want the chosen one to look to you for all the answers?
I guess, but maybe he's got some wisdom of his own too, right?
Maybe. But that's reasonable. And a lot of these people are not
Fucking
very
Jedi are
reasonable.
not reasonable.
No.
Jedi are trash. Let's talk about Sheev. Our
Sheev,
boy
that
Sheev Palpatine.
skeevy fuck.
We talked a lot about Sheev 2 episodes ago on the first Galactic Empire episode, but we're going to talk about him and his relationship to Anakin here. Senator Palpatine served as a mentor towards Anakin. Again, check out our episode for more directly on Palpatine in the Galactic Empire episode. He tried and succeeded eventually to sow discourse between Anakin and the Jedi Council, always behind the scenes, pulling strings, pulling at Anakin's deepest thoughts and kind of pushing him in the direction that led him to distrust the Jedi Council, and that maybe their decisions weren't always for the best for Anakin or for the greater world.
He manipulated the fuck out of him. He's very good at
it. I said this on our Force Awakens Patreon episode. I wish there would have been a little more of this in Kylo Ren with Rey, and this subtle manipulation, kind of seducing, coercing her into his cause rather than just straight up being like, no, tell me everything.
Give me it all right now.
I like Kylo Ren too, so.
Kylo Ren's pretty dope.
He eventually seduces Anakin to the dark side with promises of being able to prevent Padme's death. Do you think at this point that Palpatine actually knew of this power to prevent death, or was he just lying to get Anakin back over to his side?
I think he was lying, pure and simple.
Yeah, because he even says after Anakin comes over, like, Anakin says, you said we could save her. What happened? He's like, I think together we can learn this power. And there's actually a theory out there about using kind of a similar power to actually save Anakin. And there's an amendment to that theory that says basically he pulled the life force from Padme in order to save Anakin. So, we get the line at the end of Revenge of the Sith where she's dying, giving birth to Luke and Leia, and the droid's just like she's lost her will to live, which is kind of a shitty explanation. But if you add this wrinkle to it where Palpatine's actually, pulling the life force out of Padme and feeding it into Anakin somehow,
That makes
that's a
way
really
more
interesting
sense.
wrinkle.
Yeah, dude, what the fuck?
And then you get the line where Anakin, he first wakes up in the suit of armor and he asks what happened to Padme, and Palpatine tells him you killed her. And you could even look at that from a certain point of view, as they like to say in the Star Wars world, of that he did kill her because it took her life to save his.
Master. That
Yeah.
dude's a
If
beast.
if that's what happened, that's really cool, and I think that should be explored because that's a better reasoning than she don't fucking care
She
anymore.
just gave up. She's like perfectly
She's got these
healthy.
2 children. Nah,
Fuck
we
them.
don't worry about them.
Fuck them kids.
So Palpatine, as Darth Sidious, serves as Master Darth Vader, trained him in the ways of the dark side. And this is where we're getting the reveal. Canonically, he is the one that manipulated the midichlorians to impregnate Shmi Skywalker and bring life to Anakin.
I've read that theory,
It's not a
and
theory. It is canon. It happens in a comic book, Darth Vader number 25. There are actual pages
I didn't know that
that
it was
this
actually
is the way it
canon.
exists. Yes, I think it was like 2 years ago that it was canonized.
Oh shit, they're
Yeah.
canonizing all kinds of shit.
So look up Darth Vader number 25. And there's a lot of cool shit that happens in these Darth Vader comics. I'm really thinking I'm going to have to read them because as I'm going through research for this, I'm reading a bunch of things and then you see the comics panel on the Wikipedia page of like that's showing where this happened. I'm like, wow, that's cool. Wow, that's cool. So I might have to get into the Darth Vader series.
I've been thinking about it myself ever since I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos
It
that reference
it
that.
depends if after the Rise of Skywalker comes out, after we're done with Star Wars month, if I'm just like ready for a Star Wars detox for a little bit, I may need that too. But
Quite
I think
possible.
eventually I'll pick up the Darth Vader series. I don't want to get too far behind because I'm way behind in Spider-Man. I'm still like stuck in the 70s, so I can't get, you know, 60 years behind on Darth Vader too.
Yeah, you can't. That's a major, major, major F up, buddy.
Yeah. We touched on this a little bit when we talked about Shmi and we talked about Padme, but let's dive a little deeper into Anakin's dreams and premonitions. Anakin has, I guess it's a force ability to see the future through his dreams. This is rare. Not all Jedi can see the future. They can kind of get a sense of where it's going, but he can literally see things that are going to happen in the future. Yoda has this ability. Palpatine has this ability. Anakin has this ability. Those are the only 3 I know of off the top of my head. Uh, but we see it first when he dreams of Shmi in captivity and he rushes to Tatooine to save her and is too late. And then we also see it. He has the similar dream of Padme dying as she's giving birth to the children. And again, this is, in my mind, what ultimately turned him to the dark side. He was going to do everything in his power to prevent her death.
Yeah,
Because
and
he saw it with his mom, and now he doesn't want to see it with her.
But I think it's odd that it only pertains to death, to people that he's relatively close to. Like,
Did he see Obi-Wan's death in A New Hope before that happened?
I'm curious.
Did he see his own death? Did he see Luke's death? Who knows? It's probably
It's
explored in the
fascinating
Darth
question,
Vader
actually.
comics.
I'm very
We
curious.
should read
now.
them. But yeah, all of this ability to have these dreams and premonitions, like he's
It's a big
trying to
fucking
prevent
deal.
those. If he doesn't have this, he doesn't stray from the light as much, I feel like.
He doesn't stray from the light at all. That's the 2 big reasons why he
To prevent
turned.
death, right?
Yeah.
All he
It's
wanted was to prevent Padme's death, and there was someone in his ear telling him that they could do it. And when he confronts the Jedi, because he talks to Yoda, and I think it's Yoda, but it may be Mace Windu. I'm pretty sure it's Yoda. He talks to him. He's saying he's having these dreams, and Yoda's just like, sensing the future can be a troubling thing. Let me meditate on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yoda's definitely
Press
one for
that shit
meditating.
down,
I'll
young man.
get back to you on that. He basically gives him the oh yeah, let me run that up the flagpole and I'll see what I can do, and then just never fucking talks to anybody or thinks about it again. Answer
Yoda's
that.
fuck.
Yeah.
Whenever he
So
starts turning dark side.
Anakin goes and talks to somebody else. Tells him about his dreams, And
And I
that
mean,
person offers to help him. Have you
yeah,
ever
and
heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
it's innocuous the way he comes across. Like he's just a sweet old man. No one really knows that he's a piece of shit bad guy.
Right. And
So
he
it's
just
like,
tells
hey,
him,
this
like, it's not a story the Jedi would tell you, but this thing exists. And maybe I can help you with it.
I'd like to help you with it.
Is that something you might be interested in?
You know, you're special, and I'm taking a special interest in you.
And we even see it because at one point he's talking to Palpatine about his dreams of Padme, and Palpatine shows, I don't know if he's actually concerned, but he shows concern towards Anakin, and he's like, this troubles me about you after what you told me happened with your mother. So he's confiding what happened with his mother to Palpatine and what happened to the Tusken Raiders, and Palpatine is kind of giving him that shoulder to cry on, which is
It's true.
something the Jedi Council did not give him.
Well, it's what he
Which
needed desperately since, I mean, it'd been like 10
absolutely,
years since he saw his mom.
well, and ripping a 8 to 10 year old away from the only family and the only life he knows, you're gonna need some therapy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're gonna need to cry that shit out.
So let's talk about the Jedi Council and what really, in your mind, what held Anakin back from becoming a full-on Jedi Master. Besides that, they just wouldn't let him try out. What was it that they saw in him that they wouldn't let him pass?
I think it was just his inability to control his emotions.
Yeah,
Like it was
absolutely.
so obviously faked, or at least you could tell that he consistently had to. It never became second nature for him, kind of like how it did for Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda and stuff
To
like that,
be
Mace Windu.
disconnected from those feelings, right?
Yeah, he felt every bit of them. He just had to wear a mask all the time, and that shit was obvious.
Yeah, that I've got the same thing. Just his overall grasp on the emotions. Part of the Jedi rules are you have to cut yourself off from emotion and attachment and be willing to think through situations logically, right? And not let your emotions control your thoughts. You have to be in control of your thoughts. And this is to prevent anger, hate, and rage from taking over and being the emotions you're fighting with. They want love and hope and light to be the things you're fighting for, but you have to cut yourself off from all of it in hopes to cut yourself off from anger, hate, and rage. And
Yeah,
this has the unintended consequence of just it. You cut yourself off from those three, the bad ones, but at the same time, you're removing all other emotions that can actually help power the light side. And he won't ever let go of his love, at first for Shmi and later for Padme. He's always afraid for their lives, and that's why they disallow attachment, because if you have that attachment, you're always going to be worried about those attachments, right?
yeah, you're
And
not gonna be fully committed.
we see it in Anakin, that his love for these two people, it leads to fear in losing both of them. The first time, this fear leads to slaughtering the whole village of Tusken Raiders, and the second time, it leads him straight to the dark side. You
Now,
know,
did they just sweep that under the rug? Like, I'm sure they knew about it.
I don't think they did.
What the fuck happened?
He told Padme about it, and he told Palpatine about it. Why would you tell the Jedi Council? They don't know what's going on with the Tusken Raiders out on Tatooine. They barely know Tatooine exists.
Guilt.
Uh, and, as we know, fear leads to anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. And this is exact, like they laid it out for us in episode 1. This is exactly the path Anakin takes. He's afraid to lose Padme, so he gets angry at the Jedi Council for not helping him with this power and for trying to stop the one person who could help with that power. Then that anger leads him to hate the Jedi Council, to hate Obi-Wan, to
Hate
hate
everyone.
Padme for like half a second,
Yeah.
and that hate leads to
A
suffering.
very, very, very important half second.
Yeah, and
So,
and that hate leads to suffering. Padme's suffering, his own suffering. Later, Luke and Leia's suffering. It it's
the
exact like they
universe is
laid it out for
suffering.
us.
Like, he
Yes.
killed a garbage truck full load of people. Like, tons.
Yeah, that's probably a short analogy. It's more than that, I would think. Several garbage trucks, more than two, but less than 6,000,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
Like 599.8.
There we go. That's it. That's the number.
That's it. I'm a fucking winner. It's that
So we
premonition
know
from the Force.
Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. What actually led Anakin down this path? How was he seduced?
Well, I think honestly, man, it's being told like, dude, you're fucking special, buddy. I think
That's a big
being
part of it.
told you're the chosen one and this and that, and then they hold you back. Like that was something that was consistent throughout. I mean, he is very talented, very force sensitive. He's a great duelist, a great pilot. Like he has these fantastic qualities from from his perspective and everyone around him's perspective. He's supposed to be great. So why the fuck won't you let me be great? Is kind of how I saw it, and I think that
That's exactly it. Why you're all telling me I'm great and I'm going to be the greatest,
so
but
let
you're
me
not
fucking
actually
be great.
letting me fulfill that in any way.
Exactly, and that is, especially as a young man, I know those feelings too. When you don't have that freedom and independence to really be who you are.
When you know you have the potential to be great, but there's something either intrinsic or extrinsic holding you back from that, and you don't want to give in to that extrinsic force that's trying to hold you back, right?
Yeah, and you
And
resent it.
right, exactly. And the biggest thing, the biggest like the straws that broke the camel's back are the deaths of Shmi and Padme, obviously. But like you said, it's much deeper than that, and you can see it building throughout the prequels. He has these inclinations towards fascism and dictatorships. In Attack of the Clone, he straight up tells Padme that he wants to rule the galaxy and tell people what to do. In Revenge of the Sith, he does the same thing. He says, you and I, with my new powers, you and I can rule the galaxy together." And that's when she says he's breaking her heart, like she can't live with him like that. He's consistently disillusioned with the Jedi and the Jedi Council. As you said, they won't let him be great. So let's talk about how dumb the Jedi Council handled the Anakin situation from
So
beginning to end.
fucking dumb.
First, they tell him he's the chosen one, but then they tell him they don't actually want him to train. They don't want him to train. They're afraid of his power, and fear leads to hate, anger, blah blah blah. Right? Yoda's visibly afraid of his power, so they think by not training him, he'll just go away and they wouldn't have to deal with it. But because they respect Qui-Gon, they let it slide and they'll bring him in. Then they kind of try and suppress his power. They tell him he has all this power, but they don't show him how to use it all. Right? Like you were saying, they kind of neg him and gaslight him a little bit into not being able to live up to his full potential.
Well, they never give him a straight fucking answer either.
Right. Anytime he brings anything up, they kind of like beat around the bush about it. Or if he has a good idea, they kind of say, yeah, okay, but we're gonna do this. For instance, Anakin wants to go fight after Padme's attempted assassination. He wants to go with Obi-Wan and fight and find the people who attempted to assassinate her. But instead, they send him to Naboo to basically babysit her, where he can't get into any trouble, right? But really, this is actually some master manipulation again by Palpatine. He kind of puts that notion in their head because she trusts him, to get him alone with her for an extended period of time, which has
So
the
you get that
unintended
hot
consequence of bringing them together and builds their bond. But the Jedi can't see for shit into the future for some reason. Because,
apparently.
well, Palpatine's clouding a lot of it, right?
That's where it gets murky.
Yes.
Unintended.
So Palpatine can see that they need time to bond, that he knows that Anakin's attachment to Padme is eventually going to be his downfall and bring him to the dark side. So he kind of puts this idea in the Jedi's head to send them to Naboo, but they should have never let him go to Naboo with her. They should have sensed his feelings and let him go with Obi-Wan to track down the assassins or the clones, whatever he was doing.
Well, I mean, shit, dude. That's tempting as hell.
Yeah,
You know
she's
what I
hot.
mean? Like, well, she's hot and she's like a queen and fucking.
But she's not a queen, she's just a senator now.
Yeah.
She used to be.
Was. Exactly. But was. Like, that's fucking hot.
And
you
then
saw her run around with a blaster and shoot shit. It's like, whoa, you're pretty intense.
yeah, she's a
lady.
badass.
Don't fuck around.
So then he goes to Naboo, and Obi-Wan's in trouble. He wants to go help Obi-Wan, but he gets on that Skype call with Mace, and Mace tells him to stay on Naboo instead of going to save Obi-Wan on Geonosis. And like again, he wants to leave and go fight, and it's only because Padme says, "I'm going to save him, and you have to go with me because you're my bodyguard," that he actually goes. But they didn't want him to, and he was he was going to get there faster than anybody else. He was Obi-Wan's best chance of survival. And they told him, no, if Obi-Wan dies, he dies.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to deal with that.
Hey, you're a
Which
bitch.
is,
You better deal with
again,
it.
a terrible thing to tell an 18-year-old who only has this one person who he trusts in his life.
Yeah, they'll tell you to fuck right off.
And going back to this, in the Clone Wars series, they basically constantly question and diminish every decision and accomplishment he achieves. They, the Jedi Council and everybody surrounding him think his power makes him arrogant, and they don't want that arrogance to grow, so they just, every time he has something good happen, they kind of neg it in some way to bring him back down to earth, which not a great way to deal with power. Like, imagine if when LeBron James is in high school and he pulls off a sick dunk, if everybody's like, yeah, that's good, but like Michael Jordan's still better, right?
Yeah, you should. That's what they
You're
did.
not Michael
though.
Jordan. That's what the Jedi Council's doing to Anakin this whole time.
Yeah.
Well,
and I
no,
mean,
they
look
didn't do
what
it to LeBron
did.
in high school. Everybody does it to him now.
They did that
But-
shit in high school. Everybody was like, "Oh yeah, he'll be the next Jordan,"
Sorry,
but he won't be as good as Jordan.
not like his coaches didn't do that to him,
Fair
right?
enough.
The
Fair enough.
world did, but he didn't give a shit what the world said, and the internet was much smaller at that time, so he didn't have to listen to it. But like his coaches and teammates weren't like, yeah, that was okay. Like, no, they were psyched for him every time he did something good. The Jedi do the opposite, or they're like, nah, Yoda's better.
Yeah, Yoda's a G.
That's not gonna help his growth if you just keep putting him down at every chance you get.
No, that's when people get really, really pissed off
And
they
then-
do fucked up shit.
And then we get the straw that breaks the camel's back in as much as his disillusionment with the Jedi Order. And when they allow him the seat on the Jedi Council, but do not grant him the rank of Master, or even allow him to go through the trials, even though he's shown that he's ready, he's shown that he has the ability. And again, this goes back to Episode 1. They're afraid of his power and potential. If they grant him rank of Master, they can't stop him from using his full power anymore. So they're trying to hold him back. If Obi-Wan is still lording over him as his master, he can't move forward anymore, which is bullshit.
They box him in.
Yep.
Which is whack.
And at the same time, exactly the same time as this is happening, they ask him to spy on his mentor and close friend, Sheev Palpatine, and report back to them on what he's thinking. And that's a trust thing, which Anakin doesn't have a lot of people he can trust, and now he's supposed to turn on one of those people he thinks he can trust? That's
By
fucked
some
up.
people he's resentful of. Like, that
Yeah.
is just, that makes zero sense. It's so
Exactly.
dumb.
Then he tells Mace Windu what's going on with Palpatine, because he's the first one to learn that Palpatine's the Sith Lord, and he does the right thing. He goes to the Jedi Council, he tells Mace Windu what's going on, and Mace senses confusion in him, and he doesn't allow him to go with him. So when Anakin eventually arrives, because he sits and he meditates and he realizes, no, I need to go, I need to see what's going on, he only sees Mace Windu standing over Palpatine with a lightsaber about to kill him. He doesn't get to see Palpatine's attacks or anything like that. He only sees Palpatine in this compromised position.
You always get caught. The second guy always gets caught.
Right. So this is their chance to turn him back against Palpatine, and instead they turn him further against the Jedi, because it's one of the more powerful fighting-wise Jedi standing over this old man hanging out a window.
Yeah. Oh no, my hip. Oh.
Anakin, help! Help! And, Anakin says right then that he needs him. He's the only one that can show him the power to save Padme. He needs him, and Mace wants to kill him. And, just the whole time, you said it, he's training to become a Jedi. They hold him back, and right under their noses, Palpatine is grooming him and seducing him to the dark side, telling everything the Jedi should have been doing, building him up, telling him he's doing a great job. Every time he makes an accomplishment, they bring him down a step. Palpatine's sitting back there going, oh, I heard about what you did on Geonosis. Good job. Oh, I heard about what you did here or there. Great job. You saved this person. Way to go. And the Jedi are just like, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. Good. Okay. Here's another mission.
Sometimes a good job is all it takes.
Yeah, and that's
not
what
even
Palpatine
just-
gave him. Palpatine constantly gave him that affirmation that he needed. With a scared, lost kid like Anakin is, that's the most important thing, is just to give them affirmation, even if it's the smallest thing. Oh, you turned your lightsaber on. Good job, buddy. Like, that's all he needed, and the Jedi never gave him that. They constantly brought him down. Like, well, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do, or, well, you're still not as good as Qui-Gon was. Like, fuck that, man. I don't blame
when they
Anakin
talk
for
to him,
turning.
it's like, hey, stupid dummy.
Palpatine would have never been able to bring him to the dark side if the Jedi had just shown a little bit of faith in him or given him that affirmation, told him that he was good and that they needed his help and his power. They never did that. They took it away from him. And they constantly made him suppress his emotion. On top of all of this, he's not allowed to feel anything. So he feels resentment towards the Jedi, and he's not allowed to feel that resentment. He can't express that. He can't process that. What's he going to do with that?
Bottle that shit up.
Exactly. That brings me to my main point here. The Jedi need a fucking therapist on retainer, man.
Seriously.
Like, you can't get one older Jedi that can just, like, therapize the shit out of these kids.
Therapize.
If Anakin were able to share his feelings and process these emotions with someone else, rather than, just be told over and over again to not have fear or anger or any emotions, no attachment, if he could have processed that and managed it, he would turn out much better. But the Jedi didn't provide it for Anakin. The Jedi didn't do it, and Palpatine did. And Palpatine listened to Anakin and allowed him to feel it, and that's all Anakin wanted. He wanted his feelings to be validated, and he never got that from the Jedi, but he got it from our boy Palpatine. And I'm going to link this article. You and I both read it from Quora.com. It's just like a questions and answers site that you can ask questions about anything, and random ass people will give you answers. I was a top answerer for a while for fantasy football and Game of Thrones. That was really fun for like 6 months. And then I stopped paying attention to it, so I lost my status. But whatever, not important. But this answer comes from Anthony Paro on Quora. The question was, did Darth Vader ever actually return to the light side? And in his, it's a pretty long, we'll link it in the comments, but it's a pretty long explanation of what went on with Anakin. A lot of the same thoughts that we've shared here. There's this quote, but severing yourself from all attachment to avoid the fear of loss is like cutting your eyes to avoid looking at something horrible. It will leave you blind to the world around you. Palpatine took advantage of that blindness. So he cut off all emotions. Now he can't see anything. He can't feel anything. He doesn't know what to do with all these emotions that are bottled up inside of him. Could you imagine just being like, well, that's a gross thing. I don't want to see it. Let me stab my eyes. Oh shit, now I can't see anything.
Yeah,
which is very short-sighted by the Jedi.
Yeah.
And that's what our boy Anthony on Quora is trying to say.
He did a great job.
Yeah,
good
great
analogy.
Check the link if you like what we've been talking about. Check that link. It's like a 3-minute read, to be honest. If that. It's 3 minutes for me, but I'm a super slow reader. And that brings us to the big one. Who is Darth Vader?
Darth Vader. Well, I mean, we have talked a lot about Darth Vader in our past couple episodes this Star Wars month. And
yes,
really,
it's coming to an end soon. We only got one more episode in Star Wars month after this one.
Dude. But yeah, he's basically second in command of the Empire, right below Emperor Palpatine, Count Palpula. But he is like the spearhead of the Empire. He is the face, the fear, the demon of the Empire. He, commits mass genocide, mass murder, and planet destruction. He's
the Drogon of the Galactic Empire, we could say.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick.
Yeah, so is Drogon.
Yeah, he's also a dick.
Yeah, I had a Sith Master and apprentice to Darth Sidious. Check. He's throughout the Legends canon, he's had a lot of his own apprentices, but they never survived long enough. He survived the battle on Mustafar with Obi-Wan, but he was horrifically scarred and disabled. After that, he got augmented with cybernetic limbs and this suit of armor that sustains his life.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. You go.
Well, I was just going to interrupt you to say something that
I want you to say it, Nick.
Fine. His suit of armor, I thought, created by Palpatine.
Yes.
I read that it actually keeps him in constant states of like pain and just uncomfortable to help fuel that inner rage. Yeah, so he's a very pissed off.
I was not going to say that, so I'm glad you did. And that's why he's got to take frequent trips to the Bacta tank, because he is in constant pain. It didn't heal any of his injuries, and this suit keeps him in constant pain, connects him closer to the dark side. What I was going to go on with is after he learned of Padme's death, he used this all happens in comics, and this is what kind of led me to say I need to read these comics. He used a force attack on Palpatine, basically for not saving not doing more to save her. He's got him held up against the wall. And Palpatine, as Vader attempted unsuccessfully to strangle him with the Force, responded that in death, Amidala had provided Vader a gift, pain. Palpatine continued by giving Vader a choice at this point. To either accept this pain and use that gift, or you can die. So it's not only the physical pain, but the emotional pain of losing Padme that keeps him going and keeps him connected to the dark side. And
he's
he
fueled
obviously,
by hate.
yeah, he obviously chooses to accept this quote unquote gift of pain because he is not ready to die. He thinks there's, the comics go deep into all these attempts to bring Padme back and all this different stuff of the great lengths he goes to reconnect with Padme, because he doesn't know he has children at this point either. He thinks she died before the kids were born. So everything he's focused on is bringing Padme back after that point until he learns. And then we talked about this a little bit on our lightsaber episode that was 3 episodes ago. But for Vader, particularly when he needed to bleed his kyber crystal to turn his lightsaber red, this is directly taken off Wikipedia. When he attempted to corrupt it, the kyber crystal, the crystal resisted and used the Force to send Vader careening into one of the cavern walls. This is a dark side locus point on Mustafar that he's in this cave of trying to bleed it. The crystal then caused Vader to experience a vision wherein he rejected the dark side, journeyed to Coruscant, and killed Sidious. In the vision, Vader then found Obi-Wan and begged for his forgiveness. As he knelt in contrition in front of his former master, Obi-Wan called out to Vader by his former name, Anakin. Upon hearing this, Vader snapped out of his vision and angrily rejected the possibility shown to him by the crystal, declaring, "This is all there is." He then began to pour his hatred, pain, and rage into the crystal. As the planet around the cave was consumed in a violent storm, Vader succeeded in corrupting the crystal. So this was an instance we talked about in the lightsaber episode. When you try and bleed it, the light side of the Force will fight back against you. And it showed Vader a possible path back to the light, and he chose not to take it.
Yeah, because he heard his name.
Yeah,
like a punk
I mean,
bitch.
it's pretty intense scene.
I imagine. I read that somewhere, and I'd like to see it play out in comics.
Yeah,
I imagine it's fucking dope.
I got to get in on these comics. They sound awesome.
Hell yeah.
So you talked a lot about what his mission is. He's basically the death squad for the Empire. He leads Imperial armies, and also part of his, after the fall of the Republic, part of his duties were to hunt down and kill any hidden Jedi that were left out. He did this with the help of the Inquisitorius Squad. And if you want to learn more about that process, watch Star Wars Rebels. It goes deep into that. It's pretty cool. And I'm sure it's covered in these comics that we keep referring to but haven't read. So
I really got to check out Rebels. Jesus Christ.
It's good. But you're going to miss, see, if you do Rebels before Clone Wars, you're going to miss a lot of what Ahsoka Tano is and how she grows, because she shows back up in Rebels. And you kind of got to get a feel for her character in Clone Wars. It's a tough thing. Rebels is good. I like Rebels. I've seen Rebels shit on a lot recently, and I don't know why. People say it's really childish. I really like it. It's a lot of fun, which that's what I'm here for. I just want to have fun when I'm watching Star Wars. I don't care how deep it is and how violent and mythical. Like, I just want to have fun and have likable characters. Rebels gives me that.
With sword fights.
So that brings us full circle here. How did Anakin Skywalker overcome the dark side and turn back to the light? Again, if you want a super in-depth read on this, check out the Quora link in our show description, but we're going to give our thoughts on it.
I think it's love.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was, he never let go of that connection to his emotions, right?
No, and he always had that love for Padme, like you said. Like, he tried repeatedly to bring her back, and I think anything that was born of Padme, he would love. Right, so it eventually turns out that it's his love for Luke. And, as he sees the Emperor killing Luke with the Force lightning, it flips a switch in his head. Like, he can't let his family go out like this because he sees Padme and Luke now. And this causes him to finally turn on the Emperor. Luke keeps telling him throughout Return of the Jedi that he sees good in him and that he can come back. Like, he's not all the way gone. They're still good. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. And, Luke refuses to fight back against Vader at first until Palpatine, pushes him over the edge. But Luke still doesn't try to fight Vader. He's not trying to kill Vader in their duel. He's trying to just protect himself. Yeah, he's trying to talk to him.
Mm-hmm. and Vader finally turns on the Emperor and quote unquote kills him. We'll see. Rise of Skywalker coming soon. Well, it'll actually be out by the time this episode posted, but we haven't seen it yet while we're recording, so.
But we will soon.
We will. Yes. And he finally fulfills the prophecy and brings balance to the Force. So it was him all along.
Just a very windy,
Yeah.
death-filled
Took
road.
him a few extra 20 years to get there.
Yeah. 20 death-filled years.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of darkness in there. And then that, that leads to his own death. But, I feel that he truly redeemed himself before his death. A lot of people, there's thoughts out there of, well, he was just saving Luke. He didn't really turn back good. He just wanted to get rid of the person trying to kill Luke. But that's what it took to turn back good. It's a parallel almost to Voldemort of, Voldemort breaking his soul into so many pieces. How do you come back for that? And the only way is to show true remorse. And in that moment where Anakin turns on Palpatine and throws him down the shaft, he showed remorse for his actions and showed connection to Luke, and that he wanted to do the right thing for his children to survive and live. Something Voldemort could not do.
I get your point of view. I'm on the opposite side of the aisle. I don't think his final act, no matter how influential it was, especially with what Luke goes on to do, washes. It doesn't make what he did prior a wash. And it's really a selfish thing that it literally took Luke. I understand that's your kid, and fuck, I do the same thing. I fucking, it doesn't matter if I'm not gonna say that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's in front of me, but if it's between me and my kid,
Right.
They're going down big time. But shit, how did all those other people think? But when it was them standing between their child and Darth Vader.
That's fair. It doesn't recover any of the lives he caused loss in.
I mean,
but in his own heart, he's redeemed within himself. It doesn't redeem him throughout the galaxy, obviously. Like, he's still this terrible monster and will always be looked at as this, fascist and just straight up murderer, serial killer, basically. But within himself, he knows in the end he was good, and Luke knows in the end he was good, and that helps Luke move forward and continue to teach the ways of the Jedi, because he knows that good is not always lost until he meets Ben Solo.
Until he meets Ben Solo.
Then he just wants to straight up kill him.
Yeah.
Which, hey, sometimes you just got to kill a kid.
I mean, look at his face. Just look at it.
That's something that Luke learned from his dad. Sometimes you just got to kill some younglings.
You gotta cut them down.
They're in your way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so dark.
Yeah. That might have to get cut. All right, do you have anything else that we didn't cover with Anakin Skywalker? There's a ton of stuff that happens with him between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope covered in the comics that obviously we haven't read, so we can't go into. But I've covered everything I want to cover of kind of his rise and fall and what led him to that eventual fall.
As have I.
All right. And then another fall again, into Luke's arms, as you say.
Yeah, he's tripping.
Yeah.
He's tripping.
He's tripping, man.
He's stumbling.
Thank you for listening. Follow us on Twitter. We didn't do a poll this week because I didn't know how to fit one around this topic. I'm sure I could have thought of something, but I was busy today and didn't feel like it. So screw you guys on Twitter. Just kidding. We love you.
No, we love you guys. Talk to us.
Follow us at APA something, at @alone_podcast. We're always there to chat. If give us your thoughts on Anakin, whether he redeemed himself or not. That seemed to be the biggest point of contention between you and I. So let's hear some other thoughts on that on Twitter. It's a great place to get at us. All the music for Podcast About Something is provided by Those Cats.
You guys stay sassy.
Stay classy.